Welcome back, everyone. We've got a really interesting deep dive for you today, all about flattery.
Flattery.
Yeah, we got sent this article, Flatter People and Get Work Done, from the Times of India.
Oh, interesting.
And, well, it got us thinking, how does flattery actually work? Is it always manipulative? Or can it be a good thing? What's the psychology behind it all?
Yeah, I mean, we all know flattery can be powerful,
hmm
but is it just a tool for getting what you want, or can it be something more?
Exactly. So today we're gonna deep dive into all of that. By the end of this, you'll know how to spot the difference between genuine praise and, well, someone trying to,
Butter you up.
yeah, exactly, butter you up.
One thing that really struck me from this article is how flattery can be effective even when it comes from, well, unexpected sources.
Right. Computers.
Computers, seriously.
Yeah. The article talks about some research by B.J. Fogg and Clifford Nass, and it suggests that even when we know, logically, that a computer can't have real feelings, our brains still respond to flattery from them. Wow. I mean, I guess it makes sense. We're so used to getting positive reinforcement from technology, like those little likes and notifications.
Right. It's like our brains are wired to seek out that validation no matter where it comes from.
So, if a computer can sway us with a compliment, imagine how much more influential flattery from another person can be.
Exactly. It's like as humans, we have this deep-seated need to be seen and appreciated. And flattery, well, it kind of taps into that need.
I'm starting to get a little nervous about all the flattery I might be unconsciously falling for.
Well, don't worry, we're going to give you the tools to spot it. But, it reminds me of that Abraham Lincoln quote, everybody likes a compliment.
So true, and the article actually uses this phrase. Flattery is a form of energy.
I love that because it really is, isn't it? It's like this force that can be used in so many ways.
But like any form of energy, it can be used for good or for well.
Not so good.
Right. And that's where things get a little more complicated.
Definitely. The article introduces us to two psychiatrists with, well, pretty different views on this.
Okay, I'm all ears. Who are these psychiatrists?
Let's see, there's Dr. Kamaljit Singh and Dr. Parole Tank.
And what do they say?
Well, Dr. Singh, he seems to think flattery can actually be a positive strategy, even a helpful tool to get things done, he says.
Really? So he's like pro-flattery.
I mean, not exactly. He emphasizes that how well it works depends on, well, on two things. The skill of the flatterer and the awareness of the person receiving the compliment.
So someone who's really good at giving compliments and knows how to read their audience could use flattery to their advantage. I guess as long as they're not being like super obvious about it.
Right. It's all about being subtle and, well, knowing how to play the game, I guess.
Okay, that's Dr. Singh's perspective. But what about Dr. Tank? What does she think?
Well, she's a bit more cautious, I'd say. She warns that flattery can be very manipulative, especially if it's not sincere.
Yeah, that makes sense. We've all encountered those fake over-the-top compliments that just feel, well, icky.
Right. It's like you can just tell when someone's trying to pull a fast one.
But how do we tell the difference between genuine flattery and someone trying to play us? Like, what are the signs?
That's the million-dollar question. And don't worry, we'll dive into that more. But the article does offer some clues.
Okay, good, because I need all the help I can get.
Dr. Tank points out this really interesting thing. Humans have this deep-seated desire to believe good things about themselves.
I mean, yeah, that makes sense. We all want to see ourselves in a positive light.
Exactly. But it also makes us vulnerable to insincere flattery because, well, because we want to believe the praise, even if it's not entirely true.
Oh, wow. I never thought about it that way. So someone could basically use our own insecurities against us, showering us with compliments to get what they want.
Exactly. It's a pretty sneaky tactic, right?
It is. I'm starting to see flattery in a whole new light now.
And it gets even trickier when you think about how it's used in, well, things like marketing and sales.
Oh, yeah. Those ads that constantly tell you how amazing and stylish you are just for buying their product.
Right. They're playing on your desire to feel good about yourself, hoping you'll fall for the flattery and, buy into the whole thing.
I think I've fallen for that more times than I'd like to admit.
It happens to the best of us. It's like they know exactly what buttons to push.
So, what can we do? How can we protect ourselves from being swayed by this kind of manipulative flattery?
That's where we need to bring in Dr. Tank's advice. She suggests trusting your intuition and having a strong sense of self-worth. Basically, know yourself and your value and don't let anyone else's words, no matter how flattering, cloud your judgment.
That's really solid advice. But it does raise another question. If we suspect someone's buttering us up, why does flattery still work so well? Why do we fall for it, even when we have our suspicions?
Because, let's be honest, it feels good. Even if we know a compliment might not be entirely genuine, it still triggers this pleasurable feeling in our brains. It's like a little reward that makes us more inclined to trust and cooperate with the flatterer, at least for a little while.
So our brains are like, okay, maybe they're laying it on a bit thick, but hey, let's enjoy this ego boost while it lasts.
Exactly. And it creates this feedback loop where the flatterer gets what they want and the recipient gets a hit of dopamine, even if they know they're being played a bit.
That's kind of fascinating and unsettling at the same time, but I imagine it can't be that simple.
Right.
How we react to flattery probably depends on a lot of different things, like who's giving the compliment and what the situation is.
You're absolutely right. Context is key. Who's giving the compliment, what they're saying, the situation you're in. All of these things play a role in how we interpret and respond to flattery.
Right, like a compliment from a close friend feels different than, say, over-the-top praise from someone you barely know, especially if it's coming, like, during a job interview or something.
Exactly. It's all about the setting and the relationship.
So, a "hey, nice shoes" from a friend feels different than "you have impeccable taste in footwear" from your boss during a performance review. It's all about the context, right?
Exactly. And that actually brings us to another important distinction: different types of flattery.
Ooh, tell me more. What are these different types?
Well, the article talks about how there's flattery that's meant to please, almost like a social lubricant, and then there's genuine, heartfelt praise that comes from a place of true admiration.
So we need to figure out the intent behind the compliments we're receiving. Like, are they trying to manipulate us, or are they genuinely expressing appreciation?
That's exactly it. And that's where it gets really interesting. It does, doesn't it? Like you suddenly realize flattery's everywhere, like in all these everyday conversations.
Yeah, it's funny. As we've been talking, I've been trying to remember the last time someone gave me a compliment. And it's amazing how many of these exchanges just, like, go completely unnoticed.
Totally. It's so ingrained in how we interact that we barely even register it. But now that we're thinking about it, it's like, oh, wow, it's everywhere.
Yeah, for sure. But, while context is important, I'm also wondering about the content of the flattery itself. Like, are some compliments more effective than others? Is there a magic formula?
That's a great question. And, the article doesn't really get into specifics about, like, different types of compliments. But I think we can all agree that a generic, "you're so smart," just doesn't have the same impact as a more specific observation.
Right. You're so smart feels kind of, I don't know, surface level.
Yeah.
But if someone said, I was really impressed with how you handled that difficult client, you were so calm and collected, well, that would feel much more meaningful.
Exactly. It's the difference between a mass-produced greeting card and a handwritten note. Specificity and personalization, that's what makes a compliment feel genuine and impactful.
Because it shows that the person giving the compliment has actually been paying attention.
Right.
They've noticed something specific about you.
Right. It's not just some empty phrase they throw around. It's about recognizing someone's individual strengths and achievements.
So let's say you're trying to give someone a sincere compliment. What are some tips for making it land well? What's the secret sauce?
Well, I think the most important ingredient is, well, genuineness. People can usually sense when praise is coming from a heartfelt place.
So no cheesy pickup lines or over-the-top flattery that sounds forced or insincere?
Definitely not. Focus on qualities or accomplishments that you genuinely admire about the person. And remember, be specific. Instead of just saying, "you're a great writer," you could say, "I really loved that last blog post you wrote. Your writing style is so engaging and informative."
Oh, I like that. It's way more impactful. It shows you've actually taken the time to read and appreciate their work.
Exactly. And, don't be afraid to be a little vulnerable and share why you admire that particular quality or accomplishment.
So something like, I'm so impressed by your public speaking skills. I get really nervous talking in front of people, so I admire how you make it look so effortless.
Exactly. That kind of vulnerability adds depth and makes the compliment even more meaningful. It shows you're being real.
Wow, this is great. I feel like I'm getting a masterclass in the art of compliments.
And it's not just about giving compliments, it's also about receiving them gracefully.
Oh, that's a good point. We've been so focused on the giver's perspective. How can we, as recipients, handle compliments without feeling awkward or, like, suspicious?
It can be tricky, can't it? We don't want to seem arrogant, but we also don't want to downplay our accomplishments. I think the first step is simply acknowledging the compliment and expressing gratitude. A simple thank you can go a long way.
Okay, that seems easy enough. But what if you think the compliment is, I don't know, over the top, or maybe not entirely sincere, like you suspect there might be an ulterior motive.
That's where your flattery detector comes in handy. Remember, you can acknowledge the compliment without necessarily agreeing with it. You could say something like, "That's very kind of you to say, but I still have a lot to learn," or "I appreciate the feedback, but I think there's always room for improvement."
So you're deflecting the praise without being dismissive or ungrateful.
Exactly. It's a delicate balance, but it's definitely possible. It's about maintaining your own sense of humility and perspective, even when someone's showering you with praise.
Hmm, I like that. It's about finding that middle ground.
Right. It's like you're acknowledging their kind words while also staying true to yourself.
I think I'm starting to get a better handle on this whole flattery thing, both giving and receiving.
That's great to hear. And, it's natural to feel a little wary of flattery. It's a powerful tool, and it can be misused.
Yeah, it's true. I know how persuasive it can be.
Mm.
And I definitely don't want to be manipulated, and I don't want to use it to manipulate others either.
I think that's a really healthy perspective. It brings us back to that key theme we've been talking about: intent. Flattery, like any tool, can be used in positive and negative ways. It all depends on the motivation behind it.
Right. It's not about eliminating flattery from our lives altogether. It's more about using it consciously and ethically.
That's exactly it. Think of it like this: a skilled surgeon can use a scalpel to heal someone, but someone with bad intentions could use that same scalpel to cause harm. It's not the tool itself that's good or bad. It's all about the wielder's intention and skill.
That's a powerful analogy. So how can we make sure we're using flattery for good and not for evil?
I think it starts with self-awareness. We need to be honest with ourselves about why we're complimenting someone. Are we genuinely trying to uplift them? Or are we trying to get something from them?
That's a great question to ask ourselves. And if we realize our motives aren't totally pure, we can adjust our approach, right?
Absolutely. We can reframe our compliments so they feel more authentic and less manipulative. Instead of saying, "You're the best salesperson I know, I bet you can close this deal easily," we might say, "I've always admired your ability to connect with people and build trust. I'm confident that you'll handle this deal with integrity and professionalism."
So it's about shifting the focus from like ego stroking to
Yeah.
recognizing someone's genuine strengths and character.
Exactly. It's about acknowledging their efforts and contributions in a way that feels authentic and respectful.
I'm starting to see flattery in a whole new light now.
Mm.
It's not just about empty compliments or trying to get ahead. It can actually be a powerful tool for building relationships, connecting with others, and even encouraging personal growth.
That's the beauty of it. It's this complex and multifaceted phenomenon that can be both positive and negative, depending on how it's used.
Okay, well, I'm feeling much more equipped to navigate this whole flattery thing now, but I'm still curious. What are some real-world examples of how it's used effectively, both for good and for, well, less than noble purposes?
Ooh, that's a fantastic question, and one we'll explore right after this quick break.
Okay, we're back, and I'm ready to hear about those real-world examples of flattery in action.
All right, let's dive in. As we were talking before the break, it really hit me that flattery isn't just limited to personal interactions, it shows up everywhere.
Oh, absolutely. It's like in politics, advertising, you name it.
Right, it's like this universal language we all speak, but with all these different dialects depending on where it's being used.
I love that analogy.
Mm.
So let's start with the positive side. Can you give me some examples of how flattery is used effectively? And I mean genuinely effectively, not just manipulatively.
Well, think about mentorship, for example. A good mentor often uses praise and encouragement to help their mentee develop their skills and gain confidence.
Yeah, that makes sense.
It's not about empty flattery, but about recognizing their potential and celebrating their achievements, even the small ones.
Right. It's like that saying, catch someone doing something right.
Exactly. A little bit of sincere praise can be so motivating, especially when you're learning something new or trying to improve.
And it's not just about individual growth either, right? I bet flattery plays a role in team dynamics too.
Absolutely. A leader who knows how to use positive reinforcement effectively can really boost morale and create a more positive and productive work environment.
So instead of just barking orders, they might say something like, hey, I really appreciate how you always go the extra mile to help your teammates. It makes a huge difference.
Exactly. That kind of public acknowledgement can really foster a sense of camaraderie and inspire others to contribute more.
It's like using flattery as a tool for team building.
It really is. And of course, we can't forget about flattery in personal relationships. We all need to feel appreciated and affirmed by our loved ones.
Oh, for sure. Feeling seen and valued by the people we care about is so important.
It really is. And a well-placed compliment can be such a powerful way to express affection, admiration, gratitude.
It's like its own love language.
Exactly, can really strengthen the bond between two people.
So like telling your partner, you look great, or I'm so lucky to have you, that can actually have a positive impact on the relationship.
Those words mean a lot, especially when they come from someone you love and trust.
This is making me realize just how much power our words have. Like a simple compliment can really brighten someone's day.
It really can. And when it's used with genuine intention, flattery can be a real force for good.
Okay, but let's be real. There's a darker side to flattery too, right?
Yeah.
What are some examples of how it's used to manipulate people?
Well, we touched on marketing and sales earlier. Advertisers are masters of using flattery to influence our buying decisions.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like those ads that tell you you're worth it or that you deserve to treat yourself.
Right. They're playing on our desires, making us feel like we need that product to be happy or successful.
You know what? Sometimes it works. It's like they know exactly what to say to make you feel like, yeah, I do deserve that new pair of shoes.
It's a very clever strategy. They create this emotional connection and then they use that to drive sales.
And it's not just about selling products, right? Flattery can be used to get people to do all sorts of things.
Absolutely. Imagine someone's trying to get a favor from you. They might start by showering you with compliments, making you feel special and appreciated, before hitting you with their request.
It's like they're trying to butter you up so you'll be more likely to say yes.
Exactly. It's a classic manipulation tactic.
So how can we protect ourselves from being manipulated like that?
Well, it comes back to self-awareness and self-worth. When you have a strong sense of your own value, you're less likely to be swayed by empty compliments or insincere praise.
It's like having that internal BS detector.
Exactly. And remember, it's okay to question the motives behind someone's flattery. If it feels excessive or out of place, trust your gut.
It sounds like navigating the world of flattery is all about finding that balance.
It is. It's about being aware of its power, recognizing both its good and bad sides, and making conscious choices about how we use it and respond to it.
Well, I feel like we've really uncovered a lot today about the art of flattery.
We have. It's complex, it's everywhere, and it's something we all encounter every day.
So remember, folks, flattery. It can be a tool for good, for encouragement, connection, building each other up. But it can also be used to manipulate and to get us to do things we wouldn't normally do. The important thing is to be aware, to develop your own flattery detector, and to use this knowledge wisely.
As you go about your day, remember that the most valuable compliments are those that come from the heart, and focus on your genuine strengths. And when you're giving compliments, make sure they're sincere and respectful.
That's great advice. And with that, we'll leave you with one final thought to ponder. How can you use this knowledge to both give and receive flattery in a way that's authentic and beneficial? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of flattery. We'll see you next time.